Hi, everybody. This is Julie Castleman, and today we have special guest, our featured FDN practitioner for this month, Sarah Paino. I worked with her as she went through the course, and what a pleasure that was. And I'm just so pleased to have her on the call today to share her own personal health journey with us and how she works as an FDN practitioner with clients and some other things that she does, how it's all integrated for her. So welcome to the show, Sarah.
Hi, Julie.
Hi.
Thank you for having
me. Good to talk with you again.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Sarah, she registered for the course back in 2013. She completed the course in 7 months and became a graduate in October of 2013. So she's been a graduate for a while now and is integrating the FDN work into her current practice, as I said. So we're looking forward to hearing more about that, Sarah. And for anyone who wants to check out her website, it's Sarah, SarahPaino.com. And that is a really nice website, by the way, Sarah.
Oh, thank you. It's still a work in progress. I actually do have to make some changes, but I have a daughter who helps me with that, which is great.
Yeah. And I see you're an accomplished painter as well. Nice work.
Oh, well, yeah, that's something I've also been doing for quite a while. I started out actually before the health field in the art field, so I tried to keep that as part of the work I do.
Yeah, very good. Beautiful paintings.
Thank you.
All right, to start off, I guess, why don't you give us some information as far as background, other qualifications that you had before you came into FDN?
Okay, well, I actually have been in the health field for a long time, really about 35 years now. I started off in the earlier days of the natural food movement. I started in macrobiotics. I studied macrobiotics intensively in the late 70s, early 80s. I became a macrobiotic counselor and cooking teacher. I worked with the leading macrobiotic teacher, Micho Kushi, as his assistant for a number of years, and I was cooking for people with cancer, so I was very heavily immersed in that world. And for those who aren't familiar with that, it's a Japanese-based diet, very heavily focused on complex carbohydrates like brown rice and grains and beans. At least 50% of the diet is grains, very low fat, and very, very, very little animal food. But that was the time of the food pyramid that was being heavily promoted also, with lots of complex carbohydrates. So I thought I was doing the best diet possible, and did that for a long time actually, maybe 10 years, 15 years. And then because of my interest in Far Eastern medicine through macrobiotics, I decided to become an acupuncturist. So I did that in the late 80s, graduated from acupuncture school in 1989, and that was my first clue that the diet I had been eating for so many years was maybe was problematic. The acupuncture teachers I was studying under said they could always tell when a macrobiotic person came into the office because they had terrible digestive systems, and they would use the term deficient spleen, qi, and really pretty blown out systems. So that was a clue for me.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I studied that, became licensed in acupuncture and Chinese herbs, and as I mentioned, we were involved, in the natural food industry. My husband had started a tofu company back then called Soya Foods. It did become the largest tofu company. He has sold it since then, but needless to say, soy was a really big part of our diet. We thought that was a really healthy thing, too, back then. So another thing that over many, many years became problematic from the heavy use of soy foods. So over time, I was noticing that my health was starting to decline. And then I also went on to study energy healing. I did a 4-year program at the Barbara Brennan School of Energy Healing, which was a great program for learning about more of the psychological, spiritual aspects of healing, and also learning a lot about the patient and the practitioner relationship and how how important that is. So that was a great study too. But again, time is going by, and my health, even though I'm involved in all these integrative health and diet and acupuncture, I was still having a lot of health issues starting to develop over time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what brought me to FDN. I was thinking, okay, I was getting information that my diet wasn't maybe what I thought it should be, but I wasn't sure. I heard about paleo, paleo diet, so I started listening to a lot of podcasts, Rob Wolf and Sean Croxton back then mostly, and then through Sean Croxton's podcast, I heard about FDN. And I'd already started eating the paleo diet. I'd been eating for a couple of years, but I was fascinated with functional medicine. I was looking at a few different programs, but it was the FDN program that really attracted me. I felt like, especially because of the strong emphasis on diet, along with the functional testing, it really was a great fit for me because I already had such a passion for working with food.
Mm-hmm.
And so I signed up.
Great. So I'm curious, with the other diet that you had been following for so long, when you switched to the paleo, did you notice improvements from just changing your diet?
Yes. You know what? It was a very hard transition for me because you can imagine, here I was, oh my goodness, it was over 20 years, 25 years of believing that a more vegetarian, complex carbohydrate diet was the way to go. This is what I had taught for so long, and had been telling people to do. So it was it's hard to see that maybe what you're doing isn't working anymore, isn't necessarily the right thing to do. And it was hard for me to accept it first. It's like, wow,
sure,
I could be, eating saturated fats and maybe not eating grains at all. And oh my goodness, well, I already knew this boy was getting problematic. But,
what am I going to eat?
What am I going to eat? Exactly. And it was a little scary at first to make that transition. But yes, I was having so many digestive upsets. And my digestive system, I think, was pretty much blown away. So yeah. I did notice that started to improve. I started losing that weight around the middle. The rolls would start to form. I wasn't necessarily that heavy, but I had that middle weight around the middle, that inflammatory fat going on, and the middle age spread. I wasn't very happy about that. So that was actually one of the easiest things to go. But it wasn't enough. I was having some problems with insomnia. I still had a lot of fatigue. My digestion wasn't still what it should be. There was still lots going on, and I needed more information. What I was doing was not enough. Some joint pain, and I had already developed some osteopenia. So I was going in the wrong direction. I thought, this is how I feel now. What's going to happen 10 years from now or 20 years from now? Mm-hmm. So FDN really came when I needed it most.
Funny how that happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
Excellent. So you also noted some hormonal issues and things like that. As you got into FDN as a trainee and studying FDN, running the labs on yourself, tell us a little bit about the labs that you ran and the things that you found.
Well, at first, to be honest, I didn't want to spend a lot of money. So first I ran the first 3 tests that were recommended. So back then it was the 205, the 101, and the 304, which we're using right now. And even though I knew I had some problems and I had a suspicion that there was something that may not have been that great, the results that came back were, to me, so bad that I was really floored, and it was like my pride too. I said, "Oh my God, here I am, someone who was known to be living this healthy lifestyle, had such bad test results. I had exhausted adrenal. Back then we called it, stage 3, and my gut was shut down. The immune, it was just like there was almost no immune response. I had high lipid peroxide, high,
bioactive sulfates.
Right. And everything was bad. And Julie, as my mentor, you were just great because you really helped me to relax about it and go, okay, no, you're not dying. It's okay. We see a lot of this. So you're going to be all right. But that was a great experience because, it made me sensitive to my clients in the future. How do they feel getting these results? And, letting people know that, yes, maybe you have this imbalance and maybe it's a little more of an imbalance than you'd like it to be, but it's something we can work with. We can do something about it. It can always be improved. And otherwise, why would we test for it? We wouldn't test for it if we couldn't do anything about it. So that was very important for me to go through it. Well, because of everything it showed, obviously I really needed to do more tests. And so I did the MRT, I did the typing diet test, and I did the 401H. And, lo and behold, I had H. pylori. And so all the pieces were coming together. I have a shut down gut, I have H. pylori, I had low hormones. I was having a lot of, pregnenolone steel going on. The whole cycle was affected. Everything was affected. So I had to work on every level, which, of course, a lot of people have to do, work on every function to try to restore them to balance. And, Julie, what you said to me, which was really important, was that it was going to take time. This is 30 years in the making, or who knows how many years, and it wasn't going to change overnight. So I was prepared for that. I think you had mentioned back then, give it 2 years to really do the work. And I did so much, and I did a lot of work to detoxify. I did a lot of work on my sleep and sleep hygiene. It wasn't, I wasn't just popping melatonin, but I was really looking at what were my sleep habits, because insomnia was a very big issue for me. Not over-exercising, but not over-exercising. They're really using that whole Dress for Success program, trying to address all aspects of my health. Watching the toxins I was putting in or being exposed to. Doing the supplements, and using them, doing everything I needed. And, afterwards I did a few more things. I think I did the micronutrient test eventually, and then later on when I retested, I did the Dutch test to see how my hormones were doing. And it took time, but I really experienced so many benefits.
It's that transformation that Reed talks about, and that's what we wish for everyone who comes into the FDN training program, and those clients that we all work with, is to experience that transformation by following the Dress for Health Success program and approaching health restoration from a very holistic perspective. And so I would imagine that, this is a discussion that you have with your own clients, about how important it is to understand how this is a process and this is something that takes time, and how to meet the client where they're at, design their program around what their needs are, and establish a really strong foundation that they can then continue to build on over time.
Right. And, as a practitioner of Chinese medicine, we have a very similar approach in many ways to FDN, in that you're not really doing much if you're just trying to treat symptoms. And, when someone comes in, you're not treating a particular diagnosis. You're trying to find the underlying imbalances in their systems, in your energy systems. And so you look at that underlying dysfunction that's going on that would, leading to the symptoms. But if you're just treating symptomatically, you're not going to get very far. So we do try to restore balance. And like FDN, you do offer some immediate you try to offer some immediate symptomatic relief so that the person can hang in there in the long term, for the long term.
Exactly.
But you do need to restore balance. And so the FDN approach made so much sense to me because it's what I've been taught already.
So for you, I mean, we all have our challenges, correct? And as we work with the clients, they have their own challenges, things that they find, even though they're willing and able to follow the recommendations in this program, there are certain parts of the program that may be more challenging for them than for others. What was the most challenging thing for you in following your dress recommendations, and how did you overcome that?
What was the most challenging? I didn't like giving up my favorite foods. For sure, alcohol, coffee.
Yeah.
And, at least giving those first few months of, really giving up the things that I had to clean it up. I really had to clean it up. And didn't like doing that. I had some resistance to doing some detoxification techniques, for instance, you recommend doing some of the coffee enemas. My first impression of that was yuck, Yeah, horrible.
Right.
But I got beyond that too, and I just did it. I just did it. I did what I needed to do. And sometimes, in my clients, that takes a lot of coaxing. I think this is why it has to be. If I started off working, I think I was going to work for 3 months, and honestly, I don't think I've had anyone who just worked for 3 months. It's been at least 6 months because, by the time, a lot of people have pathogens, and then you have to retest, then you have to perhaps, then they may have SIBO on top of that, and it's a long process, and it doesn't happen in a month or two. And I feel
absolutely right.
People are hardly getting there in 3 months. They really need to be supported for longer than that. So I do find that people are there for at least 6 months. Some people definitely for a year.
Yeah. Well, I have found the same thing, and we have talked about that on the call. I know Brandon, he's, had that same experience with his clients. It does end up taking longer than just the 3 month period. I mean, you're just getting off the ground with some of the basics within that 3 months. If they're, for instance, like you said, you mentioned the pathogens. If someone has infections or infestations, it takes a while to self-treat, and then you have to go through that waiting period for the retest and, going even beyond that if need be. So it does often take longer than that 3 month period. Yeah, I think 6 months is reasonable, but oftentimes I have found that with most of my clients, it's we go as long as a year.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm finding. And I'm rethinking. I've told people I do a 3 month package, but I am actually really rethinking that and thinking of maybe going 4 to 6 months. I haven't decided 100% yet. Just what I'm going to put in my the information I give people. But because realistically, it's not happening in 3 months, and I'd like to make sure I support them for longer.
So are you finding within the 3 month period in most cases with your clients that they're getting some relief and they are feeling better within that period of time and feeling even more motivated to continue working with you for a longer period of time?
Oh, yeah. Like, for instance, the first thing that tends to happen is people start losing excess weight. and they're always very happy about that. That seems to be one of the easier things to deal with. I think when you get people on the right diet, then that kind of inflammatory fat tends to go, maybe not 100% for people, but a lot of people, majority of the people I work with, do notice that they're improving. Their sleep is starting to get better. That happens, during those first 3 months. They start having some more energy. Their digestion is improving. I'm seeing a gradual improvement. It may not be, totally where they want to be and symptom-free in 3 months, but they're seeing improvement. So if they add on acupuncture, that's really helpful because acupuncture accelerates the progress and gives them some immediate relief as well. And immediate relief is helpful. It does keep people encouraged, optimistic. It helps them to hang in there if they're feeling a difference. I know we talked about that. You want them to see some progress, or it's hard to hang in for 3 months if there's no progress at all. So,
sure.
So that's why I like offering the acupuncture as well with when someone's doing the FDN program, and they're very complimentary.
Yeah, I imagine so. I just want to put it out there again, for all of you listening into this call right now, if you would like to ask Sarah a question, please press 1 on your dial, and we'll bring you into the call. And Brandon, is there anything that you would like to to ask Sarah?
Sure. On the business side of things, Sarah, so what do you see, what segment, I guess, of the population do you tend to see the most within your practice? Children or a certain age group, or what does that look like?
Okay. Well, I have to admit I don't work much with children, and most of my clients I'd say the majority of women, not all women, but the majority of women, and I'd say, I do some young cases. I do a variety. I have young women who are doing infertility work, but I mostly see women who are probably between the age of 40 and 70, and I would say the majority of my clients have gut issues and gut and stress. I would say that's the majority. So I definitely work with a lot of people with SIBO and pathogens. Quite a bit of that.
And I don't know if you can answer this. Any idea why you think that segment of the population is just, because I noticed that too. I think a lot of us that are practitioners, that women 40 to 70 is a pretty big focus of, actually I guess I should say, of who happens to walk into our office. Any insights into why you think that happens to be that way?
Well, first of all, I think women, number one, are more willing to address their health than men are. So no matter what the studies, whether it be acupuncture or energy healing or FDN, it seems to always have been the pattern, and you always see more women than men. Men are maybe more stoic, and they don't seek out help, or ask directions, But, so number one is that. Number two, you've got in the more middle-aged to older group, you have more years of abuse in a sense, more years of living a lifestyle that takes its toll, and the more, and then what gets affected, the gut, for sure. Everything affects the gut. So if you're exposed to chemicals and cleaning products and body products that are all chemicalized and the wrong food and lots of stress, they all have a lot of stress these days, and their kids, especially with their kids, issues with their children, especially their grown children. So, I think it's a combination of those things that a lot of them have, maybe going through menopause or going through it or have already been through it, and then their hormones are really low also. And when you combine, adrenal fatigue and low hormones and stress and, poor diet and toxins, well, there you go.
That's the recipe there, isn't it? That's pretty much covers it. Yeah. Do you find that population group really gets and understands what you're doing? Like when you have your initial consultation, telling them how you work, what you do they just seem to it connects with them and they're ready to go?
Well, fortunately, I think where I live in Massachusetts, people are pretty aware and conscious of health. They're very educated. A lot of people they're exposed to, good food and a lot of availability. My clientele is already on the way, which is great. I'm not seeing the Dunkin' Donuts crowd, and, so that's helpful.
No, you're not dealing with the Dunkin' Donuts. You're dealing with a Starbucks crowd.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, that's the harder part. They're getting off the Starbucks. So, they're somewhat educated, and I've done, I do get a lot of referrals because of having already, a practice, but I do outreach. I do local talks. For instance, we have a great health food store. The last talk I did there, they did a lot of promotion for me. They had 50 people showed up, which was great. We got some clients doing that. So this was a group that already had a lot of interest in food, very educated, already knew a lot about health. So, these people were pretty gung-ho and already doing a lot of what they thought was healthy. They needed more help, but, there wasn't a hard group. Occasionally, I'll find someone who just isn't ready to do that kind of a program, and you do want to start with a certain level of commitment, of course, because you don't want to waste someone's time and money. You really don't. I don't, I don't want to pull teeth.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and what does Reed say? You shouldn't want it more for them than they want it for themselves. So, what do you find the most challenging when working with a client as an FDN practitioner?
One thing that's been challenging is, I've gotten some people who have tried everything and worked with everybody. And sometimes it's hard to focus them. They're on the Internet. They're going, well, what about this? I want to try this. I want to try that. And, that doesn't work. You have to try to keep them on the program and not be all over the place trying every new remedy that's come down the pike, And I do find that sometimes a bit of a challenge just to get them to stay focused and, stay with the food and the diet and to stay on that protocol. So that would be, I'm trying to think of anything else that really stands out. Staying with a diet can be, people would love to just take supplements, that whole pill mentality, give me a pill and I'll be okay. But that's it's a small part of what we do. And so, for instance, staying with the right diet long enough can be a challenge for some people. They want to keep on going back to their favorite, comfort foods.
Yeah. I found that too as a practitioner that the diet, for the most part, was probably the most challenging for clients to make that change and commit to those changes and sticking with those changes. I think, because in my mind, and this is my opinion about it, but we have established such a routine and patterns and ways of eating and what we eat and when we eat, since we can begin, choosing our own foods and feeding ourselves, that by the time you get to that 40 to 70 years of age, that it's really ingrained in us. And so I think that as a practitioner, like I said, that's probably one of the biggest challenges that I've seen in working with clients, and just guiding them along the RESS.
And I want to try to strike some kind of balance where the protocol doesn't become overly stressful for them, and they're losing, let's say, the joy of their life, because to me that actually compounds the health problems if they are so unhappy about their protocol, about their lifestyle, or, So perhaps it'll take a little longer if they ease up a little bit, but I think it's easier to maintain it if you can find that place where they're making progress and you're still happy and you're still comfortable within reason. I can't let them slip too much, but I do pay attention to that. I feel like people need to enjoy their life, and it's a very important part of health.
Yeah, I agree. So it's about taking those baby steps and moving in the right direction, and that's, again, what contributes to this as being a process, and how it takes a longer period of time to get our clients to that point where they've done so much with us and they've made good progress, and now they're armed with those tools that they know how to use and can carry on.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully it's not a struggle after a while. Body chemistry shifts and brain chemistry shifts, and you just get into a routine and a way of things where it's much probably a departure from how they were eating before, but it doesn't seem like it's a difficult thing or a lot of efforts involved. It's just how I do things now. I think that's when we have a good victory there. You kind of get them to that point where they're fully devoted. They understand what they're doing. They do it by choice now instead of like, well, I don't want to disappoint Sarah. I've got to do this. It's not that stress on there. It's just how they live life.
Right. Definitely my most successful clients are those who really find a way to enjoy what they're doing, and they really they do great. They get so excited about it, and they're sharing new things. No, they're sharing recipes with me, and they're just they create like a passion for what they're doing, and that's great when you see that. And they're so happy, and they're so happy with just the permanent life changes rather than looking at this as some kind of a regimen. They welcome the changes that they feel like they would do for the rest of their life on many levels. I mean, of course, they're stricter in the beginning. They don't have to be that strict forever, but lifelong changes are required.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. So you have, as far as the business part of it too goes, you have some packages set up. How do you, if you don't mind sharing, and if you don't want to share it, that's fine, how do you structure this as far as your services as an FDN practitioner? What seems to work the best for you where you're at?
Well, what works the best is when people run the first 5 tests. That's what, if they have the financial wherewithal and the commitment level, that I have always found works the best. And again, because it seems to be a rare person who walks into my office doesn't have some kind of gut issues. So running the first 5 tests seems, of course, to be very important. And then doing, like I said, a 3-month protocol, though I do tend, honestly, I don't even ask sometimes people for more money. I just go to 6 months. That's why I'm looking to change my program a little bit. Because I just don't feel it's time to just say goodbye at 3 months. And if I'd rather make sure that they get good results. So we tend to work at least for 6 months. So I would say, these packages. So in other words, let's say I have an acupuncture client, and we talk about doing the FDN program. So it's going to be really separate from acupuncture sessions. We'll do a separate 3-month package like anybody else would, any other practitioner would. And the acupuncture would be supplemental to that. And so that's what I do. Now, occasionally people just only want to run maybe 3 tests. I don't ever run 1 test. I don't do that. I think that I'm doing them a disservice. I'm not getting, what is that telling? It's not saying enough. Then it's too easy to treat symptomatically if you just run 1 test. So I haven't done that. So I would say 3 to 5. Occasionally, I might even do a couple more than 5 with someone. I'm not anxious to run too many tests, but sometimes it just warrants it. And then sometimes people really want it also. They want more information. But there's so much, I find there's so much work you can do with those first 5 tests before you even have to consider these other tests. And you get so much improvement by just doing the basic FDN protocol with all working on all the functions.
Reed would be proud, Sarah.
Well, he's right. I mean, I think it's easy to try to diagnose and try to treat a diagnosis, and I don't like to do that at all. You know, I don't. It gets so complicated. I think I feel, you know, when you state the basics, it's very effective. I love, in a way, simplicity. I love simplicity and looking, you know, let's treat those digestive and immune and detoxification and I'm forgetting them, hormonal, and you know, and let's address that and see where are you. Well, most people, you know, really do great with that. Really great. And once you do that, if you give it time, other things really can clear up.
Right. You know, I was just talking with someone yesterday, and she said, you know, I just got a new client. I'm, of course, very excited for her because I know what, you know, that's like when you're starting out as an FDN practitioner. And, I mean, it's even now exciting to get new clients, but particularly in the beginning. She said, you know what, I took Reed's advice. I told her how much it cost for the first 5 labs because that's what we're going to do if we work together. She said, and that was no problem. I got the client. You know, she's off and running now, and so it's really, really great to hear that, you know, FDN practitioners, you guys out there who are putting those sorts of packages together to get those first initial 5 labs run, that you're doing it. Because that's really, I mean, I have to tell you, I don't know of one case that has not needed the basic 5 labs.
Right.
Now, the lab test may not have revealed something that I might have expected, but as I have learned working as an FDN practitioner and being an FDN, that, you know, not to hold any particular expectations. You run the labs, you get the information, you form your impression by gleaning from all that information and history and whatnot, and you know, what you did find remarkable in those labs, and then design a custom protocol for the client and get started. And like you said, and like Reed says, and like we see in many cases, just following some of those basic things, keeping it simple is really helping people. There are a few cases where you might need to go beyond that. And so you did say that you take advantage of the medical director program, and once in a while you run some other labs beyond that, but that's really good to hear.
Yeah, you know, I love the medical director program. I'm such a fan. I mean, you know, I talk to Lisa Conroy pretty often, and she's like, hi, Lisa, it's me again. But, you know, I look at it in 2 ways. One is it's given me a second opinion. Sometimes, you know, their opinion, she knows a lot more than I do about certain tests, of course. And it's also, for me, continuing education. And as an acupuncturist, well, you always have to do continuing education. Your CEUs. So, you know, this is part of what we do. You're throughout your entire career. So I would never not take advantage of it. So, of course, every time I run, you know, a 401H, or if I do, any of the tests that have to be ordered through the medical director program, I always do those consults. And to tell you the truth, if it's something I can run myself, I often will add on a consult with her because I just feel it's so great to have that support and that education. I always learn from it. And, and then as an acupuncturist, I probably could run a few more tests than other people, but I still like to use the program. Though in Massachusetts, where I am, they have very strict laws about running tests. Only one who can run stool tests or blood tests are MDs, doctors, and it's not maybe. And I know in California I could do these as an acupuncturist, but not in Massachusetts. So having a medical director program for me is a tremendous help. I mean, other acupuncturists look at me and go, "Wow, you can do those tests." I go, "Yes, I can."
Yeah.
So
yes, I can. Yeah, isn't that great? So, and there's so many FDNs who are not licensed, that wouldn't otherwise be able to utilize these labs with clients and for themselves as well without having that medical director program in place. So we owe a lot to Reed Davis and Dr. Bailey for that.
Yeah, that's a tremendous asset to my program, the ability to run tests and provide those for my clients. It is great.
It makes a difference. Yeah.
So I'm glad you're bringing up about the actual consults, and I'll say this. I don't know if anybody that doesn't take advantage of that, but that time you get with Lisa most of the time there, it's not only just to say, okay, here's your 401h, yep, found this, found that. You actually do, it sounds like you do take that time, that full, and it's half-hour consult usually, to talk about the entire case. Just like we say when we're looking at results, we like to see the entire case. Well, so does Lisa. So you send that history, you talk about that person, you spend that full time learning, discussing things. So you're right, it's a continuing education in addition. So you guys out there, if you're not taking advantage of that, please do. It's part of what you get with a medical director fee.
Well, I didn't have that as an acupuncturist, to tell you that much, have that kind of ongoing support. I mean, this is a pretty amazing thing to offer. And even, if I run a BioHealth test, I often will make an appointment with one of their, whether it be, Reed or Joy. I'm sorry, I'm running a blank for a second. Whoever. I've even used their other doctors with their technical support. Their support as well. I just really like having that information, that second opinion. I think it's great.
Yeah, and I know that it's very important to read that everybody in FDN has that additional support and to just take advantage of it, because that's what it's there for. It's adding value, to your practice and to you as an FDN practitioner. And like you said, and Brandon reiterated, it allows for some of that continuing education, which is great. So, Sarah, if you would tell us, what is it that you enjoy most about practicing as an FDN?
Okay, let's see. Well, I feel, I can offer my clients so much more now. Acupuncture is a great modality. It does so much, but it's not addressing everything. And when you can really work on all these different functions that we work on with a person and help to restore that kind of balance. You're working on their diet and their lifestyle, their sleep habits, their exercise, what kind of, helping to detoxify on the hormones and the digestion. You're working on everything. And so I feel now I'm just offering so much more. I feel like I'm getting far better results, and giving people a lot of tools. That's a very important part of this. A person doesn't go home and stick needles in themselves, acupuncture needles. You're doing it to them. But in FDN, we're empowering our clients because we're teaching them. It's really an education. We're teaching them how to live a much healthier lifestyle. We're teaching them how to take care of their own health. Through all these different things, we're we're working on with them, all these different lifestyle habits. And so this is empowering. You need these people are the tools for them to work with, and that the changes they make, and so they know how to live in a way that supports their health. And that's just so important. That way people aren't dependent on a practitioner. You don't want that. You really want people to be empowered.
Exactly. That's a very good point. So as far as the FDN certification course, working through that as a trainee, what were some of the highlights and some main things that you took away from your training?
Wow, all of it was so interesting. I have a real fascination for gut health. I've continued to study all the time and read and listen to workshops and webinars and you name it. But I loved that whole segment of FDN. It opened up a whole new world for me. And of course, gut health is a hot part of medicine right now for sure.
Yeah, it is.
So I really, really like that aspect of it. For me, as a practitioner, being able to run labs has just been so great, really great to be able to do that. The whole course was so valuable to me. It really was. I can't say I came in there was like knowing so much of it already. I really didn't. What I had studied was, very different materials. A lot of it was new, quite a bit. It was like learning whole new aspects of health. So I really thought it was a terrific, really, really worthwhile program. I highly recommend it.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yes, thanks, Sarah. I'll make one last call for hands for questions for Sarah. If you guys want to jump on there real quick, 347-637-1378. Extension 1 will bring you on there. But Sarah, I really appreciate you from coming on. Really did an excellent job of explaining really FDN. You definitely understand FDN and you've applied it, and that's what we want. This is not a course that's just about head knowledge. It's about practical application, getting results, and it seems like you've done an excellent job with that. So love hearing that. Any closing thoughts from you? Anything else you wanted to kind of add to the conversation here?
Well, I've been at acupuncture obviously for a long time, and it's over 25 years. So I have a certain level of confidence in being in that field for a long time. But I've only been an FDN practitioner for 2 years, which to me is not a very long time. And for me, that it means continuing study and a lot of it. I feel like I've learned a lot and I'm applying what I've learned, but I feel like I have a long way to go. So I do plan on doing FDN too. I think it would be a really important next step. And as I said, I continue to study all the time because it's a big field. It's a really big field, and so I feel like in many ways I'm just beginning in that part of of my practice.
Excellent. Well, that's always what it's about. New things change, new things come out, and we have to sort through some of that. Just like you said with some of your clients, they'll get on to something else, do a lot of internet research, but it takes that wisdom and some support and I think bouncing around with different colleagues, what is actually beneficial. Is this something to latch onto that changes the way I look at things? So it's just a journey that we all have to learn and experience and apply to people that come for help. That's what it's ultimately about, is it that knowledge getting us better results and helping people. So, all right. Well,
and I just wanted to say too, I really loved your emphasis, Sarah, on kind of making sure you stay focused on the foundational aspects first, because it's so easy to get distracted by the newest, latest thing and by all the other information that's out there, and all of that can come to bear in a positive way with particular clients. But we have to keep that focus at the beginning with everybody, right, on laying that foundation before we can kind of diverge in all those different ways. So I love that you brought forth that and that you're finding that in your practice with your clients, that really does provide the framework from which you can build. So really appreciate that.
Right. Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in something else, and it really is like, oh, maybe I'll be an expert in thyroid health or, in MTHFR or something. But I feel like I got to stay with the basics right now, and if I start there, that's what really works for me and my clients.
All right.
Well, Sarah, I just wanted to say thanks again for being on the call today, and it's so good to talk with you again. I hope our paths cross somewhere down the line again. We'll have an opportunity to talk and catch up, and I guess in the meantime, take care of yourself, and you know that if you need anything from us, that we're here for you as we are for all FDNs.
Thank you, and I hope our paths do cross. I'm sure they will somehow.
Indeed. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. Have a nice weekend.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.